Hello. Today I am showing you how I do an ink transfer method to get my pattern onto the wood without having to use carbon paper, without having to use graphite paper, anything like that. I print the design off and the ink transfers directly onto the wood, and it's awesome. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today. Okay, so the way I do this is with transparency film sheets. There is a link in the video description. It's an Amazon affiliate link, and it goes to the exact sheets that I bought. But basically, they're like old transparency sheets that you would use like maybe in grade school on an overhead in a vis-a-vis marker. Do you remember that? Like the big overhead and it projects the image and the teacher's writing on those films? That's what these are. The ink just comes right off onto the wood, and it is so fast and easy. I love it, and I wanted to share this with you. Some things about the transparency film. At least the ones that I bought, the ink only comes off on one side. So the first couple times that I was testing this, the ink was printing onto the plastic and then it wouldn't wipe off. And I was like, but then I would feed it through the other way and it would wipe off. So it's like one side is absorbent, even though it's plastic. It shouldn't be different, but it is. So you're probably going to have to sacrifice one of your sheets from the beginning to figure out which side is the bad side. So in the way I did that and the way I keep track of it is I have a piece of tape on the bad side. So I know which side to print when I send it through the printer. The other thing is that my printer, at least this is my printer, I have an Epson ET3710, 3710. It does not sense that this is paper. So when I was first testing this and I was sending it through the printer just on its own, it would just spit it out and be like, printed. And I'm like, hello? Like, you didn't print anything. But it was because it like wasn't sensing that this was paper. I guess maybe it needed the opaque, like it needs the opaque paper to sense it, to pick it up. It's just very odd. I tested it over and over and over. I tested it on different printers. Like it needs something to be able to see, because it's like seeing right through this. So I have mine taped to a piece of scrap paper. All right, so I just have it taped up here, and this is the good side, right? The tape is on the back side. So I will send this through the printer as a unit, and it'll print, and then I can flip onto the wood, lift this up, and see the ink transfer directly onto the wood. All right, so let's actually print and transfer our design. I have a mushroom template here. It's a PDF. I've already sized it to a 4x4 piece of scrap wood that I have, and I'm going to send this through the printer. Now, make sure that you send it through right side up. However your printer feeds paper, I have to put the scrap paper up because it pulls it through the machine and prints it on this side. So I'm putting it into my printer, paper up, and then I have the image. But a couple of tricks about the image: you have to make sure that you invert the image before you print it, because when it prints out on the paper, it looks normal, but then you flip the paper over, and that's how it's going to press the ink into the wood. That's how it's going to look. So if you don't want it reversed, you have to flip your image, okay? So make sure you do that, whether you're in Canva or printing from your iPad or whatever. And then the other thing is, I have noticed on various kinds of woods, this is true for all the woods that I've tried, if you print in full black ink, it'll bleed in the wood grain. So I turn the transparency of the image down like into grayscale. I don't want it too light, because if you print it too light, you won't be able to see the ink, especially if you're using a dark wood, like maybe a dark cherry or a dark walnut. So maybe just like 50%, but you have to turn the opacity down so it doesn't use all that ink and it doesn't bleed into the grain. So anyway, let's print the image. Okay, so I printed the image. You see it? You can see the scrap paper behind it, but there's my little mushroom design. And this is the piece of wood that I have. Let me rearrange my camera so you can watch exactly what I'm doing. All right, got my wood, I have the design. I'm a little worried about this design because I think I didn't turn the opacity down enough. It's still very black ink instead of gray. So I'm afraid this is gonna bleed, but we're not gonna know until we try. I'm going to not touch it. Number one, don't touch it because you'll smudge the ink. like that, you see? But you can easily smudge the ink. It does not dry on this side. Peel that piece of scrap paper off, and I am going to line it up. I've already flipped it over so the ink is on the bottom. I'm gonna line it up on my wood exactly where I want. I've pressed it down in one spot, and now it's very important, do not move it. You don't want to move it, because as soon as you move it, it's gonna smudge on the wood and you're gonna screw up the design. So try your very best not to move it. Keep it in one spot. And then what I'm doing is I'm basically just rubbing everywhere that I see the ink, right? I'm trying to get that ink onto the wood. I'm just kind of mulling it like paint or something. All right. I see a couple spots that didn't transfer. See, I just moved it. And there's still some ink left. Can you see the silhouette? There's still some ink left, so I can line that back up, but sometimes it's not that easy. Okay? Sometimes it's not that easy. But anyway, there we go. And so now it's ready to burn. You can just burn right over that. The ink absorbs into the wood, and you can see in some of these spots, it did run. It did bleed. Like, it bled. You can see it starting to bleed in the grain. So that is why you need to turn the opacity down. This was already in grayscale, but it wasn't low enough, apparently. But anyway, now this is good to wood burn. You're good to go. This is another example that I did, and you can see that I had turned the grayscale down a lot more on this mandala piece. But yeah, like, it's good to go. It didn't smudge. It's great. And it just really, really cuts down on that transferring the design time. Let's go back to your sheet. Now that you've gotten the design onto the wood, you will still have some residual ink left over. You're gonna need to wipe that off before you reuse it. These sheets are reusable over and over and over and over again. So I just have a old paint rag here, and I just wipe, get all the ink off, and then you are ready to use this again. Tape it to your scrap wood and send it through the printer over and over and over again. This has really been a game changer for me in terms of time. The time it takes to prep my piece of wood, get the design on there, actually get wood burning. Like, this hack, trick, whatever, has taken down that prep time so much. It is so fast, so instant, and like you saw in the mandala, you can do a big design super quickly, right? Like, it's awesome. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions. Drop your comments, questions, whatever in the comments, and I will try to answer them. Again, the affiliate link to the transparency sheets that I use it's in the video description. Also, one more thing before I go, this does not work with laser printers. This only works with an ink printer. I know, if you have a laser printer, I'm sorry, this isn't gonna work for you. Womp womp. But anyway, hope this was helpful. Bye guys.